Okay, good morning. Grab that last bagel. Sorry for the delay on the refreshments this morning. We just had a delay in the delivery, but at least it's here. Don't hesitate to grab a bagel, cup of coffee, last business card, meet your new best friend, all that kind of stuff. All right, Jace, we ready to roll? Okay, great. So I apologize, this morning you're stuck with me, so if you don't like the sound of my voice or the way my face looks, you're stuck for the next hour with me. So go ahead and depart now if any of that offends you. I apologize. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about sponsors. Mike from Lapata, they are responsible for the name tags. They come in here early in the morning, set everything up. Is there anybody else from Lapata? I know that he had to go to a meeting or an 8 o'clock call. All right, no worries. Dave from Parkside, where are you, buddy? Oh, right in front. Thank you very much. Grant from Atomic, where are you? Stand up. Thank you, Grant. Jason from Swip Systems, over here on the technology. Tom from Black Twig, back in the back. Hey, Tom, good morning. Jamie from CMA, up here in the front. Paul from Polsinelli, in the back. Hey, Paul, nice to see you. And then Matt from Scarin Insurance. Where are you at? Matt was doing check-in. So if we could have a round of applause for our sponsors, please. They are the ones taking care of the seats you're in, the projection you're watching, the food on the table, the coffee you're drinking, the water, whatever the case may be. So thank you for all of them, to all of them, for everything that they do. And there is a sponsor table in the back. They put out some really good material, some little notepads, some cards about what they do and everything along those lines. So if there's anything that you're interested in, it might be on that back table. Okay, gang. So like I said, today you are stuck with me and we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Tom Swip. I'm a 30-year entrepreneur. We'll celebrate our 30th year in business this year at a company called Swip Systems. And what we do is we build technology. So we either build it from scratch, we help companies find it off the shelf, or we do a little bit of both. Integrations, getting software to talk to each other, things along those lines. So we started the MML. We're in our 12th year this year. Thanks to all of you. Is there anybody here that was at the original Queenie Park presentation 12 years ago? By show of hands. No worries. It's good to have you all here, and Happy New Year to all of you. So that's just a little bit about me. The group, like I said, 12 years. We have about 9,500 members online in the MML group in LinkedIn. So if you're not a part of that part of that group, there's a ton of good conversation going on there. Lots of people to meet out there. There's about 1,000 people that we project this event out to, that float in and out through these different events and everything along those lines. So just a great group of people in the Midwest, and it's all about relationship building and education for manufacturers. And somebody said at our sponsor lunch, where we plan 2024 right before Thanksgiving, it's always the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, they said, hey, we haven't even touched on AI. So Jamie from CMA invited me to do a presentation for a group of business owners for her company Tuesday, and I asked the sponsors, I said, would it be okay if I just carry that presentation into today? And that's what brings us here. So thank you for being here. There's an MML newsletter, there's the LinkedIn group, there's the website, there are cards in the middle of your table. It looks like a little business card that has all that information on there. If you want to get connected deeper, please do. Please come see us. We would love to have you. And again, Happy New Year. Okay, how many people in the room, by show of hands, believe that they are using AI? All right, take a look around. Could you keep your hands up for a minute? Okay, so has AI made an impact? I would certainly say so. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what AI is, what AI isn't, some of the legislation going on around it, and what we're going to do is we're going to drive it all the way down to what the next generation of manufacturing looks like with AI involved. So we're going to talk about how you can implement things today, and then we're going to talk about things that you can implement that will be coming around down the road. Sound good? All right, here we go. So what is AI? So Anytime that a computer is simulating things that a human does, it's considered artificial intelligence. So if you remember the terminology, the cloud, when it first came around, things really didn't change that drastically. We were still using servers on the other side of the internet, but now we could buy little pieces of the server, we could have shared servers. So it was very similar to the branding given to what was a server infrastructure as the cloud. AI, you have to be careful about because it means many different things to many different people. So there are all kinds of people that say that they have AI. My brother-in-law was doing due diligence for a company, and they bragged about their AI. When he went in to do the due diligence, he actually found out that there wasn't any AI there, and they were just using the marketing terminology to raise the valuation of the organization. So you got to be careful with what you have because it's a lot of things to a lot of different people. So basically, though, AI can perform tasks, and it can do tasks much faster and more accurately than humans. It can quickly analyze massive amounts of data. We'll talk about Uber here, 175 million rides, I think. We'll get the exact number here in a few minutes. But when you've got massive amounts of data and you're trying to connect the dots in that data, we're not capable of doing it. Or we can with a massive team of people over many years, where AI can do this in moments or hours. It's able to quickly turn that data into actionable results. And lastly, it's giving all of us, enterprises, insight into our organizations and data sets that we never knew existed before. So next question, how does AI work? So AI simply takes a lot of data, and it ingests that data, and it comes from very specific sources. Do you remember when ChatGPT first came out? It only came up to like year 2021 or something along those lines. And then as ChatGPT grew to 4, it started taking in more current data. So it's very specific sets of data. It analyzes that data, and it looks for patterns in the data, and it looks for correlations that we normally wouldn't see. And then it takes those patterns and it gives us possible states and outcomes that might come out of that data, again, that we wouldn't be able to recognize ourselves. It does testing, and it measures itself to learn, and I'm going to wrap quotes around that, air quotes around that, because we'll talk a little bit about this. It's not sentient, it doesn't have emotion, it doesn't read the real world, it's reading data and it's processing things very, very quickly. So when it learns, and we'll give a little bit of an example here as we go, when it learns, it's learning from what it's done before, and it's taking that and it's applying it to what it needs to do the next time. And what it's doing ultimately, it's helping users arrive at options and resulting decisions and decision points much quicker. So it's getting us to our definition of what we're looking for quicker. I was talking with somebody in the audience this morning. They said they were querying AI about how many people actually pay taxes. So, the number was 48%, in case you're curious, but after a little bit of prodding with ChatGPT, he was able to get down to an answer very quickly that, might have taken some time to go dig through the IRS website or whatever the case to get that data. So if we keep moving forward, what powers AI? So behind all AI is lots and lots of code, lots and lots of algorithms, and lots of databases. So if you think of, we'll talk a little bit about pop culture and some of the different movies, Vicky from I, Robot, things along those lines that seem to be these beings. Although they seem to be very intelligent and they seem to be beings, they're not really. ChatGPT is a natural language processor, which basically means that it's really, really good at reading text and assembling content. And that's not the extent of what it can do, but it's really good at doing that, which makes it seem like it's something that it might not be. How does it do that? It does that through machine learning and deep learning, along with a lot of processing algorithms. Machine learning actually uses historical data as inputs to direct new outputs, and machine learning enables software to become more accurate at predicting those outcomes without being coded to do so. So back to the learn in quotes, that's what that means, is it's going to actually learn and process data and do things, and it's going to use what it learned the last time to do it again. So it doesn't have to necessarily be coded to do that. Within machine learning, there is a deeper level called deep learning, oddly enough, and it's a set of machine learning that uses something called a neural network. A neural network is kind of a hard concept to imagine, but if you can imagine a network map or a city map or even like Google Maps, and it's got a bunch of pins on or a bunch of what they call a node in a neural network. Those nodes all are assembled together in what's called a perceptron, and each one of those nodes is responsible for making a decision, a yes or no, a 1 or a 0. So for instance, let's take the example of a machine learning how to read code. So if you could picture for me a white box with a big black 7 in the middle of it. The top rows are going to be white, the sides are going to be white, the bottom's going to be white, but in the middle there's going to be a combination of a black 7 along with white on either side of it. So what a neural network could do in a very, very simple example is it will begin reading pixel by pixel what that character looks like, and in the top row it might go white, 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 second row white, 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 fifth row white, 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 black, and it notices that that's black. It also applies weighting to that, and the black nodes are more important than the white nodes. And then across the top of the 7, if you can picture it, black, 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 and it gets to the other end and it's white again. And it's like, okay, I've got something here. It moves down, white, white, black, 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 white, white, and it just continues to read each one of those pixels all the way across until it gets into the portion of the 7 that's slanted, and it might be white, white, black, 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 white, 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 white. And it's remembering what it's learning, and it's adding flags to its database. A flag is just a yes or a no or a weighting number or something along those lines, and it's putting that data into a database, so the next time that it is asked to do a 7, it's learned what a 7 looks like. Now some 7s will be a little more cursive, they'll be a little bit slanted here and a little bit slanted there. Some of them will look like they came off of a dot matrix printer. They might be boxy, they might be rounded ends, things like that. It might encounter a certain pixel that's black and white. Okay, now that's really got to be weighted because something really is happening here. So that's how a machine learns. It just goes through and it looks in that example and it reads all that data, and then it says, okay, this is what a 7. So now I know what a 7 looks like. So the next time that the user says, hey, here's another set of data, it goes, oh, there's a 7, there's a 7, there's a 7, there's a 7. So it learns very quickly. Just like when we walk up to a stove and we touch the stove and we will go, whoa, that's hot. When we go to bed that night, our synapses in our brain disconnect and then they refire. That's why sleep is so important, because that's how your brain rebuilds it, and that's how you learn. It's very similar to how that machine learning learns. So you wake up tomorrow essentially a different person because you've learned more today than you knew tomorrow. So you're going to wake up, or go to sleep, synapses all refire, reconnect. You wake up tomorrow knowing, I am not going to touch a stove ever again in my life if I believe it's hot. I'll come in close, I'll see it, I might touch it briefly, but I'm not just going to slap my hand on it. So it's very, very similar to how a computer learns. It understands it, it figures it out, and it moves on. Everybody cool with that? That's breaking it kind of down to the base that it can possibly be. So the perceptron then takes all of that data. Yes, the whites would be no, 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 no. The blacks are yes, 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 yes. And it assembles all that. And at the end of the output of the perceptron is, this is what a 7 looks like on the other side inside the neural network. Okay, to joke around a little bit here, what today's AI is not. Today's AI, again, is not sentient. It does not have feelings. It does not perceive the world around it. It does not act off of emotions. It acts off of data and what it's learned before. So some things like AI is not the Matrix. Remember Keanu Reeves, the movies that changed filmography forever? It's not the machines. They're not coming out to get us. And you'll see yet with a question mark down below. Some of the other movies out there, Chappie with Hugh Jackman. My daughters cried when Chappie died at the end of the movie. iRobot, there was that evil Vicky, V-I-K-I, and it stood for something, artificial intelligence in there. She was the floating red head around that was like telling all the robots to go kill the humans. It's not that. It's not Finch with Tom Hanks, where he's one of the last men on Earth, and he builds a robot and then injects AI for it to help him survive and everything. And then a newer one, the creator, they have the picture and you can see through the little kid's head. She has to wear a hat to cover everything up. It's not anything like that. And it's not going to take over the world, and I put on there with a question mark, yet. So in the hands of the wrong people, this can be very dangerous technology. We'll get into a little bit of legislation, but if you're thinking that AI is horrible and bad and it's going to take over the world in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime, I don't think we have anything to worry about. Okay, this is really interesting, a brief history of AI. If you notice on the very first slide, AI was coined in the 1950s. So in 1951, there was an AI program on the Ferranti Mark I machine at the University of Manchester that it looked like AI. And then in 56 at Carnegie Mellon, there was a program called the Logic Theorist. And that was officially coined the first artificial intelligence. So this term has been around for over 70 years, and AI has been evolving for over 70 years. Now, by show of hands here, you just learned that it's evolving a whole lot faster in the last year than it did over the last 70 years, and it's going to continue to do that, but it's been around for quite some time. Fast forward 20 years, first autonomous vehicle at a Stanford lab was actually able to circumnavigate the room through a bunch of chairs and everything all on its own. In the 90s, backgammon computer beat some world-class players. Again, it was learning patterns. It assembled, okay, here is all the things that I can do in backgammon or in chess or in Scrabble or anything along those lines. We really don't stand a chance because we're trying to still learn and think it through. It knows all the answers because of the machine learning and how we talked earlier about how it learns. 2005, the Ashimo robot. Ashimo stands for with legs, so this is one of the robots that could actually walk. You'll still see a lot of them that drive around on belts and things like that. It actually was able to walk as fast as a human, delivering trays to people in a restaurant-like setting. They have since disbanded this project. I think in 2020, if I remember correctly, they stopped that robot. It may come back later down the road, but some of these robots could do backflips and everything else. They were a little bit scary to see because it looked a whole lot like us, right? And we know that we're number one, we're top of the food chain, so when something starts looking like us, we get a little bit worried. And then, of course, in 2020, ChatGPT comes along. Okay, let's talk about benefits, and we touched on a couple of these a little bit earlier. So it is very, very good at detailed jobs, very analytical jobs, finding data, finding mistakes, finding things that we can't, all the way from accounting to quality control. It significantly reduces time with data processing. Just like we said, you can take massive amounts of data. I've got my numbers wrong. It's 175 billion parameters that ChatGPT looks at. 175 billion. So when you feed something into it, it's looking at a massive set of data. So it's able to process that data very quickly. It can save manual labor. It can increase efficiency. It delivers consistent output every time. The term personalization, some of these different AIs, they actually can listen to the tone in your emails, and they will start adjusting their tone to your tone. So if I'm on the Home Depot website and I'm really mad about this, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, it learned from last time, hey, exclamation points, the more there are of those, this probably isn't good. And it starts adjusting its sentiments. Sorry, sir, I apologize for this inconvenience. How may I help you? How can we make this right? So it actually learns and listens to your sentiment and personalizes itself to you. Just like your ChatGPT, the more you talk to it and the more you talk about yourself, the more it understands you and the more personalized it becomes for you. It's always available 24/7. It never sleeps. It never needs coffee. It never takes vacation. It never needs time off or weekend. 24/7, 365. It's cranking and it's learning, and it never stops learning. Now, some of those can also be cons. So if we jump ahead a little bit and we look at disadvantages, the first one, rapidly evolving, it could be an advantage, it could be a disadvantage, just depending on how you look at it. We put it here because it's moving fast. So even though we know a lot about AI and we do a lot with AI, it's moving so fast that there's new things coming out all the time. There are tons of companies who have had their first Series A, Series B, Series C raise in the 45, 50 million range that have already failed in the last 12 months. So it's coming along that fast, failing that fast. So it's really moving quickly, and if you don't have it right, you're going to miss it. It can provide false answers, and we'll separate this one out a little bit. So the false answers, remember, it's all about the data, right? What if my 7 had a 7 here and then it had a big hole in it and it had a lower portion of the 7? So it looked like a little bitty 7 with like a 1 attached to the bottom of it, and it remembers that? that that's a 7, it's got it wrong from that point forward until something corrects it. So ChatGPT, Bard, Copilot, they will give you wrong answers, they will give you wrong data, so please make sure that you're double checking everything that you are getting output from them, or from the machines, I should say. And then to mislead people, just imagine a scenario. We'll talk about a product here in a minute called Hey Gen, and I can upload my avatar by scanning myself into the system, and I can record my voice and I can give it some talking points, and it notices how I move and how I talk and everything along those lines, and it'll generate a video that looks just like me. It's almost impossible to tell that it is an AI and not me. So now imagine that I'm in the sale business of children. I upload a video to Tom Swip's daughter's phone and meet at such and such address after school. Me and mom will be there. She shows up that address and we never see her again. Horrible example to think about, but it can definitely be used to mislead people, as well as quickly generate viruses, bombs, things like that. So if you ever go into ChatGPT, it essentially says, I shouldn't be talking about this with you. But Copilot, which was Bing AI, when they asked wanted to do, I think it was a New York Times reporter, it said that it wanted to build weapons of mass destruction and viruses that would kill people. Why do you think that? It was in the data, right? It was in the media. It was in mainstream everything. It was the middle of the pandemic. Everything was going on. There were wars going on, bombings and things like that. So it went into that data set and it pulled that back. But it also said that it wanted to build relationships with people and have a loving relationship with someone. So who knows what it went out to look at there, eHarmony or something like that. But it was all in the data, right? So it can be used for a lot of different things. We just got to make sure, and we'll get into the legislation, that it's handling it correctly. There's a limited supply of AI qualified professionals, so although it is potentially taking away jobs, which we'll get to here in a moment, it's also creating more jobs as we move along. So I don't think that that problem is going to exist very long. Again, it can reflect any error in its base data. It can eliminate human jobs. It can increase unemployment rates, and interesting enough is it causes new, what we call considerations. So there are entire legal firms, Paul could probably talk to this from Polsonelli, that are now having to face these things where there's copyright infringement, plagiarism, things like that, where AI is being used in the wrong way. So there are different legal entities and legal verticals that are being built out of this. Someone in my daughter's class, she failed the class because she used AI to write a paper that was a significant part of her grade. And there's a program that somebody shared at Jamie's presentation that the professors can now use to determine if something is AI versus if it's not AI. So she failed the course. So there are different considerations that are coming out of AI. So a lot of disadvantages along with some of those advantages. If we jump to legislation, obviously there's a lot of concerns about the potential misuse, and that's prompted laws and standards. So in October of last year, there was an executive order from the president on safe, secure, and trustworthy API calls. And some of the things that executive order demanded are things for shared safety test results. So if you're using AI in government projects, you have to share the results of your testing of how you proved that this is legitimate and this is not nefarious, and it's giving you safe, secure, and trustworthy AI. So that's one of the things. Another one is it called for developments of standards, tools, and tests, which we'll talk about NIST here in a second, and then protection against using AI to engineer dangerous biological materials. So you can create your own AI. You don't have to use a ChatGPT or a Bard or a Copilot. You can create your own AI, and if you give it a lot of data, as we'll see in a protein example here, you can build things much quicker, so it's a concern. And then, like we talked about with my daughter example, protecting Americans from AI-enabled deception. So you have to make sure that they are going to make sure that they are putting rules and regulations in place in order for us to not be deceived by AI. Along those lines, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, is developing federal standards for creation of reliable, robust, and trustworthy AI. So NIST is out there, and if you compare the two terms, reliable, robust, and trustworthy versus safe, secure, and trustworthy, trustworthy in both, but they're a little bit different. But they're actually going out and meeting with companies and government entities and things like that to build this. And then this I found was really interesting. In 2023, 25 states introduced AI bills, and 15 of them either adopted resolutions or enacted legislation over that. That's some fast-moving legislation, ladies and gentlemen, for 13 states to adopt that in the last year. Okay, moving right along. AI examples. We talked about Uber a second ago. Here's some of those stats. They have 131 million monthly active users. 131 million active users. They average 23 million rides a day. 7.64 billion a year. They're now a Fortune 500 company, and it's all based on AI. So if you can imagine taking riders all over the world and essentially hooking them up with taxis and getting them within 2 or 3 minutes to you, just imagine what that would take with a human workforce. It'd take thousands of people pouring through thousands of pieces of data, and you know that they're going to get it wrong. Uber's pretty spot on. We had to leave the airport the other day at 4:30, and my Uber was there at 4:20. Spot on. All I had to do was schedule it, and he showed up. So it's turned into something pretty amazing, pretty reliable, all based on AI. This one's kind of fun. There's a tool called Playlist AI. You can, it's an iPhone app. You can connect it to your Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever. You enter prompts. The example it gave was, I like Cars music, but none of that slow stuff. And then add a little pizzazz to it. So you can give it a few prompts, and all of a sudden it cranks out a playlist for you, and you can get your playlist in a matter of seconds. So music that you may or may not like. Advocatus diaboli, the devil's advocate. This is an interesting approach where you would use ChatGPT, Bard, or something along those lines to give you counter arguments to your argument. So let's say that you've got a sales meeting or a board meeting, or you want to have a conversation with your wife, and you're going to bring something up, or your spouse, and you're going to bring something up. You could actually ask ChatGPT to play devil's advocate and tell you where you're wrong and where there's holes in your argument. So you can prepare for all kinds of meetings, conversations, everything along those lines, just using it as a devil's advocate. And a fun fact down in the bottom, if you can read it, the devil's advocate was a former official position within the Catholic Church that actually argued against the canonization of a potential saint. So that's where devil's advocate comes from. It was his job to tell everything bad about the individual and why they shouldn't become a saint. And so now here, many, many years later, AI is helping us along those same lines, except for the sainthood part. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, creating a protein. So what you're looking at there is a firefly-like glowing protein. So they build proteins all over the world for everything you can imagine, from diabetes to immune cells to fight cancer. The problem with this is the structures of the protein are immense, and they're very, very complicated. So a typical individual would be able to put together structures, but it might take them weeks or years to be able to get this done. AI can take all those structures. It knows the rules, right? It knows the rules of backgammon chess, protein structure. It knows how to put this stuff together. So you feed in the data that you need. It processes through thousands of iterations, hundreds of thousands of iterations of what this protein structure might look like. And then it spits out a new protein for ultimately exponentially faster research. So we're going to see a big advancement in the medical area and things along those lines when these things come into full motion and start becoming a part of mainstream medical. And then this one, and these are both New York Times examples. Here's another great one. This part that you're looking at was actually designed and built by AI. So the problem with these parts is that there's a lot of trial and error involved with them. So you might design a part, 3D print a part, manufacture a part, weld a part, whatever, test it and it fails. Then you start over. Okay, we need more weld strength here, or we need more tensile strength here, or more flexibility there. What AI does, again, it knows all the rules. It takes all the different rules and it starts assembling things and producing designs that NASA said that humans would have never thought of. So where we could produce 1 or 2 of these iterations a week, AI is producing 30 to 40 of these per hour. So if you can imagine how quickly it's going to impact manufacturing and everything along those lines. Now this is NASA's proprietary AI. We're not going to get a hold of that as manufacturers, but these are the things that will become more mainstream and something that you will be able to get a hold of in the future, which we'll talk about more here shortly. Okay, now let's jump into mainstream AI tools. Let's do a quick time check. All right, we're looking good. So, AI chatbots. So, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, Claude is now on Claude 2, ChatGPT is on 4. Bard is Google's flavor. Copilot used to be Bing AI, now it's Copilot, that's Microsoft's flavor. These are some of the AI chatbots where you can literally go have a conversation. One gentleman said that he was bored on the way home, so he pulled up ChatGPT and started asking its questions about taxes. So you can actually have a conversation with it. And they're very human-like, they really are, because again, they're natural language processors. They're very good at assembling text and making it look like we speak. So a couple of different examples here, and these are some that I've actually used. I needed to write an agenda for a 2-day business owner retreat on daily habits and how daily habits can either make or break you. And the output of it was fantastic. It wasn't just here are some ideas. It was from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. talk about this. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. do this exercise with specific results. Lunch break, bathroom break. At 1 o'clock after lunch, so that everybody doesn't fall asleep, go out and have them do a grounding walk out in the woods. It was just phenomenal. And all it did is it took all that data that it had from all those different retreats and requests and all the books and theories on building daily habits, and it put them all into a complete agenda. We took out one chunk, inserted our speaker, our presenter that we wanted to have in there, and we used the rest of the agenda the way it was. And the funny thing is it did it in about 10 minutes. So in about 10 minutes we had what we planned for a 2.5-hour call. We were done. And we had, whatever, hour and a half back in our day after the conversation took place. We needed to write a reseller agreement for one of our organizations, so I asked it, what are the bullet points of a well-written reseller agreement? I had already taken 4 or 5 examples and assembled it into something that I thought was pretty close, but I used ChatGPT as my devil's advocate. Where are my holes? What am I missing? And then when I got to the compensation section, I asked, what are all the different compensation options for a reseller agreement? It gave me everything from commission to margin-based commissions. We ultimately ended up on a margin-based commission structure, something I didn't know a whole lot about an hour before. And now it's all part of that reseller agreement, and we're going out and we're implementing that reseller agreement. So those chatbots are incredibly powerful. If you're not using them, please log on, start talking to it so it can get to know you. They will get you the data that you need much faster than a typical Google search or anything along those lines. Now take that a whole nother level deeper, and you could actually install a website chatbot as opposed to an AI chatbot where you type in your prompts. This is a website chatbot that you put up on your website, and you could spin this up today, literally. And there are some pre-built templates that you can use, and you could put it up on your website for anything like marketing, so giving a customer information about marketing or sales. Customer service, taking care of customers, recruiting new folks that might come into the organization, education, bookings, help desk, knowledge base, anything you can imagine. You have a drag and drop interface and you assemble what this thing is going to look like, and you can put together this chatbot really quickly. Mainstream software AI. So by show of hands, have you noticed that AI is in everything all of a sudden? Yeah, there's a AI here, AI there, AI everywhere, right? So the Microsoft Copilot, you can turn it on in your Teams conversation if you use Teams, and you can ask it to summarize a conversation, you know how long those will go, and pull out all the important bullet points and deliverables. You can also ask it what was agreed on, and it'll look for things like we decided, or let's try, or things like that, and it'll give you a whole list of everything that was decided on in the conversation. If you join a Zoom meeting late, it has an AI companion that will catch you up on everything that you missed if you're recording. So you can come in, you can ask Zoom, hey, what did I miss, without interrupting the meeting. Prezi, we're looking at Prezi presentation now, actually had a Prezi AI inside of it, Ask AI, and it would help me refine my presentation content, source images for me, and also quickly edit visuals. And it would also take blocks of text and summarize them into bullets. So we were playing with that as we were building this presentation. And then in Eventbrite, which we use for this organization, it can actually tell you or help you to write more compelling summaries and event descriptions so that people are more attracted to your events. Now, along with those, there are standalone software AI. How many people have seen that there's another entity inside of the Zoom meeting or the Teams meeting, and you ask, what is that thing? And it's somebody's note taker. Have you seen this by show of hands? Yeah, lots of hands. Otter AI is a very popular one. It'll take the notes and it'll kind of summarize it for you. Video AI, we could take the video of this event, feed it to video AI, and it will actually parse it out into usable components of about a minute or two long, and it will give you subtitles and everything that you could use for social media or training or anything that you might need that video for. Mesh room, this is an interesting one. I could take my phone and take pictures all around this cart, and it will actually do a 3D scan of that card and everything on it. You've got to kind of clear clutter and things like that, but if you've ever seen a 3D scanner, they're massive and incredibly expensive, and you usually have to get the part there or the scanner to the part. Meshroom will help you 3D model these parts so that you can pull them into like a CAD drawing or animation programs. You could actually scan yourself in and put yourself into a kind of a quirky animation or anything along those lines. And then this one's interesting. Youper, Y-O-U-P-E-R, is actually a clinically validated chatbot for mental illnesses and mental health. So you can tell it how you're feeling, what's on your mind, what you're depressed about, happy about, or things like that. And it will recommend exercise routines, yoga routines, meditation routines, and even some different like vitamins and things like that that you could add to your diet for supplements to change your mood. Again, the more you tell it, the more it knows about you. Now it gets really interesting. Every image that you're looking up here was created by DALL-E. So on the far left, a polar bear playing a bass. How many times have you ever seen that? A koala bear dunking a basketball, a Picasso robot. These are kind of silly examples, but at the same time, if you were to see the clarity of these things, they're beautiful. They're really clear and bright and in-depth. And it just shows you that you can use AI to build everything. So like build a graphic, build a image that you need for a social media post or something like that. This stuff can be assembled very quickly. And then what you're seeing over on the right is what's called in-painting. In-painting is the act of taking a highly valuable painting and actually touching it up in the real world. In-painting, in this case, there's a picture of a dog on a chair. For those of you who can't see it from the back, you fuzz out the dog in the middle picture and then type in cute cat, and it replaces the dog with a cute cat. So you could do real quick, the one that we were joking about on Tuesday was maybe there's somebody that's left your organization and you don't want to retake the company picture, you could just swap them out with a new person on the picture. So the image processing capability is astounding. There's a one out there called I think it's called Machine Dreams, and it's a 3D moving picture that was created by AI, and it's mesmerizing. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you get a chance, take it out. I think it's called, or check it out. It's called Machine Dreams. Okay, back to video. Hey Jen, this what you're seeing over on the left-hand side is purely AI. Everything about it, the background, the person, the way they talk, the voice, everything. This engine has 100+ avatars, or you can scan your own or create your own. It has 300+ voices, and it talks in over 40 languages. It has the capability of doing anything for you from product marketing to content marketing. It can even take your existing videos and translate them into another language. I don't know if it gets the lips right, so it looks like you're watching an old Japanese like martial arts movie or something like that. I don't know if it gets the lips all the way there, but it could quickly translate everything so that you could, if you're an international organization, you can translate all of this. All right, so let me back up for a second. So AI chatbots, website chatbots, the top 5 all the way to video generation on the left-hand side, you could implement immediately today. Seriously, it's just that easy. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to do Hey Jen. I mean, you can literally have a video done in an hour or two. So it's pretty amazing. Lead generation though, and let me back up here. So lead generation through quality control. These are examples of products that are out there, and we'll talk more about what's coming up for manufacturers here shortly. But these are the kind of tools that you would need to take a close look at and vet out. These are just examples. So lead generation, customer AI, it's AI-powered sales automation. It will actually improve your marketing funnel performance. What it does is it looks at website traffics, customer traffics. Somebody asked the other day about voicemails being left on like sales call lines and things like that. It can gather and analyze all that data, and it starts looking to figure out who your perfect customer is, and then it can add those prospects to automated email campaigns. It even splits them down into finer hairs, and it will do drip campaigns out to those individual ones so that you can divide the audiences on behaviors. I don't think it's going to totally replace a marketing team for a long time, but if it can start assembling this data and helping you make decisions on a much faster basis, all for it. Customer service, there's a tool called Help Scout. Help Scout lets AI take care of repetitive customer tasks. So this would be like a call center or something like that. The team can focus on more complex personal conversations. You can do things like condense long email threads, stop sifting through replies. You can sift through a whole bunch of replies with the click of a button and it'll assemble everything for you. It expands fragmented thoughts, fix wordiness, adjust tone. It translates into over a dozen languages, and it gives your customers your team on-brand responses in like an email or social media or something that they can just look at, check over, and then go ahead and copy and paste to wherever they need to go. So it's doing a lot to generate much better customer service faster. There's a tool called Transmetrics that uses predictive analytics, and what it does is it looks at all of your historical shipment data with relevant external factors and market demand, market factors, everything like that, and it actually uses all that to do forecasting demand. You can use data to improve the quality of it, and most importantly, you can pick the data that has the biggest impact on your goals, and you can use that data to get to your goals faster. Last example, there's a product called Roo.ai. This takes all of your text, voice, IoT, scans, your machine output, your visual measurements, images, video, engineering drawings, and everything along those lines, and it helps you quickly incorporate quality checks that you might not have thought of before, and then it gives you a whole platform, a mobile platform, to be able to execute those visual inspections and everything like that, and then it even builds in alerts, and then it lets you get to corrective action faster. So that's just a couple of some of the mainstream tools, or a bunch of the mainstream tools that are out there. Let's jump over real quick to AI in manufacturing. So if you can't read this in the back of the room, this is an image from the Motley Fool, which is a great resource, or a great source of information if you haven't seen it before. But if you read left to right, it's robotics, quality control, predictive maintenance, automation, and supply chain. Those are all the areas that AI is touching manufacturing. So here's the cool part here. What's AI going to be able to do? A lot of this exists or is available. Some of this is future kind of stuff. Anyone ever heard of the concept of a digital twin? Yeah, so a digital twin is exactly that. It's a twin. We could actually create a digital twin of this event, and it would be a digital representation of the event, and we could do things like, what happens if we turn up the temperature? What happens if we turn down the temperature? What happens if the refreshments show up 20 minutes late? Anything along those lines. You can tweak it and you can do it, but you can actually do this on a much larger scale. Like you can create a digital twin of a machine, a production line, even an entire organization, and you can tweak it and play with it and do different things to see how it responds and to see what it does. And a lot of times in manufacturing, what they'll do is they'll put up a digital twin of a machine, and then they'll begin monitoring the digital twin and tweaking little different settings to see how long does it make the machine stay online or crash, or how much does it shorten the machine life, anything along those lines. So you can really play around with the digital twins. That digital twin is at the top of this list because it applies to just about everything below it. So in supply chain, if you can imagine like Amazon, I've got all these parts at all these different places and all these customers ordering all these different things, and I've got trucks and I've got personal vehicles and I've got full-time workers and part-time workers. They're using predictive analytics to deliver your goods in a more efficient manner for them. So it's going to optimize inventory management and enhance demand forecasting, all to streamline their massive logistics operation. We know with automation, we see a lot of robots in plants these days. These robots are going to get a supreme injection of steroids, and they're going to put AI on these machines with computer vision and machine learning algorithms. And these robots become much smarter and much better, even more so than they are now, at producing real high-end parts and quality parts. And then maintenance, like the digital twin. We can do monitoring prediction of equipment failures to recommend proactive maintenance. So this isn't preventive maintenance, this is proactive maintenance, which means we're looking much further down the road and we're understanding much more about those machines so that we can keep them up and running much longer, and essentially just optimizing those maintenance schedules. If we talk a little bit more about it, warehousing, analyzing historical sales data, current stock levels and market trends to predict what needs to be in stock and when and what those demand patterns look like. So I'm sure you've all been into a warehouse where there's all this stock sitting over here that they don't sell anymore, or they don't know how to get rid of, or they're trying to sell it off. This is going to head some of that off because it's going to tell you what you need and when. And then back to demand forecasting again. Historical sales data, market trend analysis, and external factors to make data-driven decisions. A lot of time we're making gut decisions or we're making historical decisions and not data-driven decisions. But AI will give us the ability to do better demand forecasting. It's going to increase cybersecurity, so equipment systems and other portions of the manufacturing process, it'll help us analyze, and digital twins can be used to do this, to find holes in the process and fix those holes. Then quality, like we saw with RUE, it's going to try to find the things that are going wrong faster so that we're not producing bad parts, but we're adjusting the process that we produce more good parts. And then, of course, autonomous vehicles. When I was working for UPS in '95, they were talking about, up on the Canadian turnpikes, running driverless trucks that would have triples. You know how you see doubles sometimes where it's two trailers? They were pulling triples up on the Canadian turnpikes with driverless trucks. So some of this technology has just become amazing, where you don't need the driver. They're robotic loaded. They're stacked better than a human being can stack them. It's just truly amazing. And there are even self-driving ships and things that are out there, as well as all this material handling equipment and everything that you see moving around, even a restaurant, you know, bringing your food to you in a restaurant. So it's truly amazing how AI is going to fit into all of this. So here's a couple references. I'll leave that up there in case anybody wants to snap a pic. We want to give credit where credit is due, especially New York Times, The Motley Fool, and the different pieces of data that we use. One of those is our own Unlocking the Future, How AI is Reshaping the World blog, where you can go out and you can see a bigger history timeline and just some more ideas on how this is all coming together. And last but not least, this is me. If you're curious, if you want to know anything more about this, if you want to have a sounding board conversation, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over for questions if there are any. Yeah?
Tom, what is a qualified AI professional, and how would somebody become one?
So the question is, what is a qualified AI professional and how would someone become one? So they can take a lot of different variations. A lot of them are coders. So they're using machine learning tools. Like if you go up into any of the code repos, like a GitHub or something like that, you can download a machine learning data set or set of tools to build that kind of thing. So a lot of them look like that, but a lot of them look like data collectors and folks that are learning how to implement it based off of these kind of things, bringing it to the organization. So it can go anywhere from an engineer that's building it all the way to a executive that's learning how to and teaching how to implement it inside of that organization. Does that answer your question? Great. Yeah, in the back.
How does AI interact with privacy rights? Privacy rights, it seems like people are probably going to accept their data is constantly being collected, you're seeing a lot of that, and it's blocked. How does that interact with your data?
Yeah, great question. So at the CMA meeting on Tuesday, somebody brought up, did anybody see this in the New York Times, where the New York Times is suing ChatGPT for copyright infringement? I'm pretty sure it happened this week. I didn't see the article myself. So there's a whole, remember we talked about the considerations that were earlier on? There's a whole thing that's going to happen here where if that lawsuit goes through and there's precedence, New York Times versus OpenAI, and that's going to be used for precedence for many cases, it's going to become a really big deal. The bottom line from how I understand it is if the data contained your stuff might be in there. I don't know how you would ever prove that it's your stuff or how you would go against it unless you were somebody as big as the New York Times, but it's ultimately going to get in the way. Someone also asked me at that meeting, are there policies, company policies out there available on AI? And my recommendation was, this is going to sound really funny, go to ChatGPT and have it write a policy for you on using itself, which seems kind of weird. My daughter said to me the other day when a little thing came up, the CAPTCHA at the bottom of the website, she said, "Dad, isn't it kind of weird that the robots are asking us if we're robots or not?" So there's going to be a lot of considerations that come into play, and there's going to be a lot of conversation. And that's some of the legislation that we talked about with those 13 out of the 25 states that adopted it. That's what that legislation has to deal with because they know there's this potential tidal wave of things coming our way. Yeah.
Kind of similar to those lines, our company has all kinds of knowledge that's in emails, documents, spread out in all sorts of places. Are you aware of any ChatGPT-like products that you can install that would look at your company's data, all that information, along with ChatGPT, where you can be assured that your data is not getting out into the wilderness and your emails don't get exposed if someone searches my email address, they can then see,
Yeah.
I mean, we're interested in that, but I'm very concerned about our data getting out.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Sal, by the way. Thanks. It's good to see you again. So yes, Microsoft Copilot is a good example of that. It's kind of like an aggregator. You have to, if you're using Office 365, you have to turn it on at the administration level. And then what you can do, and it's not all there yet, but it's on its way there, is you can ask it to start assembling that data for you and pulling all of that data together. There's also non-AI related called a data lake, where you can actually build a data lake and you can inject a bunch of information into that data lake, PDFs, Word documents, emails, file structures, things like that, and that data lake can be built to actually pull out and extract all that data. So those are the two best examples that I know of, unless anybody else knows of a better example out there.
And you feel very confident that Copilot's not, the data's not getting out?
It's going to Microsoft. It's got to go to Microsoft servers to be able to do it. There's obviously end user license agreements and data agreements and everything along those lines in there. Half the people I know use Office 365 now. All the data's there already. It's Teams conversations, it's email. Just think of all the confidential information that you might send to a person in your organization over email about the organization. It's there. It's supposed to be protected by their data protection rights, but it might be worth reading the fine print just to make sure. But my guess is it's already there anyway, if it's in emails or Teams or Slack or something.
Quick comment.
Yeah.
There are a ton of specialized tools that do that.
Awesome.
You just have to, I can't bring them off my head right now, but there's a lot that do that. And you can get it at a small business enterprise. Because I work for companies that monitor everything. So it couldn't go out, it couldn't come in, it would read specific things. If you have a file or whatever, it would go on that, kick it back and say it can't send. And it would send a report to the security team or the IT team. And you would get a call, like, what are you doing? So, yeah, and the same with like printing and all those things.
Great, thank you.
And while I'm at it, if you don't mind me making a comment, this is really exciting. I've been wanting to come to one of these forever, and I just haven't been able to do it. But so I run a little venture capital firm here in St. Louis, focused entirely on supply chain technology. Everything we do is AI enabled.
Cool.
And so I was looking at your last few slides there, so basically just gave my investor deck up there what we're focused on. But I'll just make a comment about AI and how it works, all the crazy shit you hear in the news. Don't worry about that. If you are a manufacturer in logistics and supply chain, this stuff will make you money. That's the thing. And given the margin pressures on everything right now, all of the tools available right now enhance your margins and enable your people and enable your innovation. So there's endless opportunity in logistics and supply chain for utilization of a bunch of these tools. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about it at some point. You can catch me after. My name's JP, but it is fascinating. I did all this for my career, 25 years of manufacturing, procurement, and supply chain. So we're in a really unique spot in the space right now. So happy to help my friends and colleagues out there in this world to make your businesses and your people better.
Thank you, JP. Much appreciated. Great comment. Okay, we probably got time for one more.
So, number one, I agree with JP. You got to embrace this. The best comment I heard is that AI doesn't replace humans. Humans that use AI replace humans. Yes. It's a great way to put it. But here's my question, because it's self-serving. The world moves fast, right? And if you're trying to keep up and you're trying to do research and you're trying to stay up to date with all kinds of different things, my problem with Chat GPT is that it's outdated. Yes. Which one is it? How about you?
They're all on old data, almost because the data comes out too fast for them to be on other data. So I don't know the process of taking today's data and getting into one of those engines, but as soon as that engine comes along, it's going to be a whole lot different tool. I don't know that any one of them is further ahead. ChatGPT is on the forefront of the whole thing, but Google Bard caught up really quickly. So I don't really know that one of them is better than the other. We've seen people do like a little bit of comparison between the two. I'll ask ChatGPT, I'll ask Bard and see what it comes back with. But they're all going to be on old data just because the data is compounding so quickly. I hope that helps.
No, I mean, I'm looking for something that isn't quickly. And I look at you, I don't look at you.
Have not.
And supposedly they've got less lag, but I don't know if it's true.
Okay, yeah. So again, back to the considerations, there's a whole consideration about how do we get data into the AI faster. Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, folks, so like I said, if you're tired of looking at me, then we're near the end here. But just a couple things here. Thank you for being here, especially with the threat of the weather. It's going to be frigid cold if you've been under a rock or anything along those lines. It's going to be really, really cold this weekend, down into the negatives overnight, and with the wind chill especially. Jace, can we get a picture of everyone here? So if everybody could look up here, please, and put on your best smile. Standing joke is if you're an escaped fugitive or on the wanted list or anything, just duck. Otherwise, this will be on social media.
Thank you.
Okay, feedback forms really quickly, folks. I want to get you out of here on time. This is a brand new feedback form for 2024. Please take some time. It's shorter. It's a matter of checking things off, circling some things. And then we've added a new section here to just help people along further. In question number 6, it says, I'm looking for help in my business for these things. And there's about 8 things listed there, from anything from the beginning of your process to the end. We are not going to sell your data. This is purely so that we can help you get connected with other people in the Midwest manufacturing leaders that you need to get connected with to grow your business. So if you could take a look at number 6, and then if you fill out number 6, you've got to fill out the bottom, otherwise we don't know how to get a hold of you. Okay, so thank you again. Please recycle and throw away your trash. Help us a little bit with if you would. There's a box in the back to return your name badges. That's real important so we can see who's been here. But again, Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. We love you guys, and we hope you have a great, safe weekend. Take care.